My name is Iris Holloway. I'm 41 years old, and the moment everything in my life made sense was the same moment it all quietly fell apart. Not dramatically, not loudly, just precisely. I've always believed stability was something you build carefully, not something you stumble into. I work as a regional logistics manager for a retail distribution company, and most of my life reflects that mindset. Early mornings, structured schedules, systems that function exactly as expected. I like knowing where things are, where they're going, and what happens when something breaks. Control doesn't comfort me. Predictability does. And for a long time, I thought that was enough to sustain a relationship. Daniel Reeves is 37. The kind of man people trust almost immediately without asking themselves why. He's warm in a way that feels effortless, attentive when it matters. The kind of person who can make a conversation feel balanced even when it isn't. Being with him felt easy, at least that's what I told myself. We had been together for 8 years. Not married, but close enough that the distinction didn't seem important. He moved into my house 5 years ago, a property I bought long before I met him. Something stable, something entirely mine. That mattered more than I realized at the time. Daniel works in corporate training. His job involves travel, presentations, workshops. For years, it was predictable. Occasional trips, a few days here and there. Nothing that disrupted the rhythm of our life. Until about a year ago, that's when the travel changed. At first, it was subtle. 1 extra trip a month. Then 2, then suddenly, it felt like he was gone every other week. He didn't ask if it worked for me. He just informed me, casually, like he was mentioning the weather. Chicago, 2 nights, training session. That was how he said it one morning over coffee.
Flat. Dismissive.
When I pointed out that Chicago wasn't part of his usual territory, he didn't explain. He rolled his eyes and told me I didn't understand how his job worked. And then he added something I should have paid more attention to. If you keep questioning everything, I'll just stop telling you. That was his pattern. Turn a reasonable question into a flaw in me. I let it go. Not because I believed him, but because I needed more data. That afternoon, I did what I always do when something doesn't reconcile. I checked the numbers. Our shared account showed a gradual shift. Nothing extreme, just inconsistent. Small charges labeled as business expenses that were never reimbursed. Retail purchases that didn't align with anything I knew about him. A men's boutique, a sneaker store, a gaming shop. Then one charge that didn't just stand out. It settled into my chest like something heavy and permanent. A jewelry purchase. Not for me. Daniel doesn't buy gifts impulsively. He complains about spending on anything that isn't necessary. He once told me shopping for others felt like wasted effort. So I didn't ask him directly. Not yet. A week later, he came back from that Chicago trip, and something about him felt wrong. Not tired, not stressed.
Bright.
He walked in with a kind of energy I hadn't seen in a long time, kissed me quickly, dropped his suitcase near the door, and went straight to the shower. His phone stayed face down on the counter. That was new. That night, he complained about work, about clients, about the hotel, but he smiled while he said it. Not the tired kind, the satisfied kind. I waited until he fell asleep, and then I did something I'm not proud of, but I'm also not going to pretend I regret it. I picked up his phone. I didn't go through everything, just enough. His calendar. His email. The hotel confirmation. Everything matched on the surface. The dates, the location, but the reservation details didn't. 1 room, 1 guest, and a name attached to the loyalty account that wasn't his. Tyler. I stared at it longer than I needed to. Long enough for the initial shock to settle into something colder. Something useful. I didn't wake him up. I didn't confront him. I placed the phone back exactly where it had been, and I went to sleep in the guest room. By morning, the confusion was gone. What replaced it wasn't anger. It was clarity. And clarity doesn't rush. It builds quietly. The next few weeks became a quiet investigation, not the kind people imagine when they hear that word. There were no dramatic confrontations, no late-night accusations, no screaming questions across a kitchen island. Just observation. Daniel became looser with money and sharper with me. Any question about his schedule became a lecture about trust. Any mention of the budget became proof that I was controlling. He started using words like suffocating and rigid, as if those words explained why charges kept appearing where they shouldn't. One night while folding laundry, he complained about younger employees being exhausting. "She thinks she knows everything, just because she's 29, he muttered. I didn't react, but I heard the name when it slipped out a minute later. Tyler. He corrected himself too quickly, then snapped when I repeated it. She's just someone on my team, Iris. Just someone. People always say just when they're trying to shrink the truth. After that, the spending escalated. Designer clothes, expensive headphones, a hotel spa charge in a city he claimed was unbearable. Dinners for two, always during supposed training trips when he was apparently too busy to answer my texts. All of it touched accounts connected to me. What Daniel didn't understand was that money has memory. Every purchase leaves a footprint, and I keep records for a living. I downloaded statements, saved receipts, took screenshots, matched dates against travel claims. The picture formed slowly, then all at once. Daniel wasn't careless. He was confident. There's a difference. The final confirmation came on a Thursday evening. He left his laptop open while showering. A message preview appeared in the corner of the screen. From Tyler. Thank you for the watch. I miss waking up beside you. No hearts. No dramatic confession, just casual intimacy, the kind people use when they believe the world will keep protecting them. I closed the laptop. Then I sat on the couch and made a list. Not of feelings, actions. 2 days later, Daniel announced another trip, Thursday through Saturday, regional leadership workshop. He said it while pouring coffee, like he was doing me a courtesy by letting me know. I nodded. Have a productive trip. He looked annoyed by my calm. Daniel liked reactions. Calm deprived him of oxygen. The morning he left, he accused me of being distant. I told him I had a heavy workload. That irritated him more than anger would have. Once his car pulled out of the driveway, I started. First, I called my attorney. I didn't say betrayal. I said financial misuse, shared accounts, and misconduct. I asked what documentation mattered. He told me to preserve everything and not tip my hand. The house being mine simplified things. The shared money complicated nothing. If anything, it clarified the pattern. Next, I changed passwords. Banking, utilities, cloud storage, streaming accounts. Anything tied to my finances or private information. Nothing illegal. Nothing reckless. Just access corrected to match reality. Then I boxed Daniel's belongings. Clothes, shoes, grooming products. The expensive little objects he bought and never maintained. I folded everything neatly, labeled each box, and stacked them in the garage. No trash bags. No destruction. This wasn't revenge. It was logistics. On Friday afternoon, I printed every receipt tied to Tyler. The watch, the clothes, the dinners, the hotel charges. I highlighted totals, dates, and locations. Then I looked Tyler up. She wasn't hiding him, but she wasn't exactly claiming him either.
Typical.
I sent her one message.
Polite. Brief.
I told her Daniel would be back Sunday, and that I had something of hers. She replied almost immediately.
Confused. Curious.
That was all I needed. By Sunday evening, the house was ready. Daniel came home to silence, a folder on the kitchen counter, and the emotional temperature of a room that had already made its decision. He texted me first with anger, then panic, then anger again. I didn't answer. An hour later, Tyler pulled into the driveway, and for the first time in weeks, I felt my heartbeat steady. Not because I was cruel, because the truth had finally arrived with an audience. I didn't go inside right away. I sat in my car down the street, engine off, hands resting loosely on the steering wheel. Not gripping, not tense, just waiting. Timing matters. Not for drama, but for clarity. Tyler stepped out of her car, holding a small gift bag, the kind people carry when they think they're arriving somewhere welcome. She smiled as she walked up the driveway, casual, unguarded. Daniel opened the door before she knocked. His expression shifted the second he saw her. Confusion first, then something sharper. Fear, but not the kind that protects you, the kind that exposes you. They spoke briefly at the door. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. Body language fills in gaps better than sound ever could. He stepped aside. She walked in. That was my moment. I got out of the car, walked up the driveway, and let myself into the house. No hesitation, no announcement, just presence. They were both in the living room when I entered. Tyler standing near the couch, still holding the gift bag. Daniel pacing slightly, like he hadn't decided which version of himself to perform yet. When he saw me, his posture changed instantly.
Defensive.
"Iris, what is this?" he demanded, already raising his voice like volume could regain control. I didn't answer him. I looked at Tyler instead. She looked uncertain now, the smile gone, replaced with something cautious. Good. Uncertainty listens. "I'm Iris," I said calmly. "Daniel's partner." I didn't use the word girlfriend, not because it wasn't true, but because it didn't matter anymore. Tyler's eyes flicked toward him, searching for confirmation. He didn't give it. That silence said more than anything I could have added. I walked past them, picked up the folder from the kitchen counter, and handed it to her. "This is for you." Daniel stepped forward quickly. "You're not doing this," he snapped, reaching for the folder. I moved it slightly out of his reach, without effort. "No," I said evenly. "I already did." Tyler hesitated, then took the folder from my hand. She opened it slowly. The first page was the watch receipt, the same one she was wearing on her wrist. Her expression shifted as she recognized it, confusion tightening into something heavier. She turned the page.
Clothing.
Shoes, dinners, hotels, all itemized, all dated, all highlighted, and all connected to accounts that didn't belong to him. The room went quiet. Not the comfortable kind, the kind that forces people to hear themselves think. "I assumed," I said, still calm, "that you believed you were being treated by someone generous. I thought you deserved to know where that generosity came from." Tyler looked up slowly, at him, not at me. "Is this true?" she asked. Her voice wasn't angry, it was controlled. "That's always worse." Daniel laughed, but it came out tight. "This is insane," he said. "She's twisting things. You don't understand." "Then explain," Tyler cut in. Just 2 words. No emotion. No space to hide. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to me. "This is pathetic, Iris. You went through my private information? You're seriously trying to humiliate me like this?" There it was.
Deflection.
Not denial. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Tyler was already looking back at the pages. Her fingers paused on a highlighted total. A hotel charge. 2 nights. Same dates he told her he was working late. Same dates he told me he was traveling alone. Patterns don't contradict themselves. People do. "Why didn't you tell me you were living with someone?" she asked him quietly. He stepped closer to her. "I was going to," he said quickly. "It's complicated. She and I—" "No," Tyler said, stepping back. Just 1 word. But it ended something. "I'm not interested in complicated," she added. "And I'm definitely not interested in this." She lifted her wrist slightly, the watch. Then she took it off, walked to the kitchen, and placed it on the counter. The sound it made was small, but final. Daniel's voice sharpened. "You're overreacting. It's just a lie," she said. She picked up her bag, looked at me briefly, not with sympathy, not with apology, just acknowledgement. Then she left. The door closed behind her without force. No shouting, no scene, just absence. Daniel stood still for a moment. Then everything in him snapped toward me. "This is what you wanted?" he demanded. "To ruin everything? 6 years, Iris. Over nothing?" I met his gaze. "Nothing?" I repeated. He started pacing again, running his hands through his hair. "It didn't mean anything," he said. "You're blowing this out of proportion. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean you destroy everything. I watched him carefully. Not for what he said, for what he didn't. There was still no denial, no regret. Just frustration that the structure had collapsed before he was ready. I've already made my decision, I said. His pacing stopped. What does that mean? It means your things are in the garage, I replied. You have 7 days to arrange pickup. For a second, he looked like he hadn't processed the words. Then he laughed.
Short. Disbelieving.
You're serious? Yes. You're throwing me out? He snapped. Like I'm nothing? I held his gaze. You made that decision before I did, I said quietly. Silence again. But this time, it didn't belong to me. It belonged to him. That night, Daniel didn't leave. Not immediately. He moved through the house like someone trying to reclaim space that had already rejected him. Doors opened harder than necessary, drawers shut with intention. His voice rose and fell in waves, calls, complaints, explanations to people who weren't there to witness the truth. I stayed upstairs, door locked, headphones on. Not because I was afraid, because engaging would have turned clarity into noise. Around midnight, the house went quiet. Not peaceful, just temporarily exhausted. I slept better than I expected. In the morning, he tried a different approach.
Calm.
Measured. Like none of it had actually happened. He made coffee, sat at the kitchen table. Asked if we could talk like adults. I think we both overreacted, he said, sliding a mug toward the empty chair across from him. I didn't sit. There's nothing to discuss, I replied. You have 6 days left. The mask dropped instantly. You're unbelievable, he snapped. You really think you can just erase everything? Over a fling? There it was.
Minimization.
I leaned against the counter, watching him. A fling, I repeated. Yes, he said, as if the word simplified everything. It didn't mean anything. You're acting like I destroyed the world. I let the silence stretch just long enough to settle between us. Pack a bag, I said. You're leaving today. He stared at me, then laughed again. You're not serious. I didn't move, didn't respond, just held eye contact. That's when it clicked for him. The laughter disappeared. You can't just throw me out, he said, sharper now. I live here. No, I said calmly. You stayed here. There's a difference. His tone shifted again, from anger to negotiation. Okay, he said, running a hand through his hair. Fine. I messed up. But we can fix this. You don't just walk away from 6 years like it's nothing. I didn't react to the words, only the pattern. Bargaining always comes after denial. 30 minutes, I said. Take what you need. The rest can be scheduled. He tried one more angle. You're really going to humiliate me like this? He asked, voice lowering. After everything we've built? Built. As if the foundation hadn't already collapsed. I walked to the front door and opened it. Not dramatically, just deliberately. When I turned back, he was watching me differently, not with anger, with recognition that this wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a conclusion. 30 minutes later, he walked out with a suitcase and his laptop. He paused at the doorway, like he was waiting for something. An apology, a hesitation,
A crack in the decision.
There wasn't one. You'll regret this, he said finally. You'll realize you threw everything away. I stepped aside slightly. So did you, I replied. He left. The door closed behind him. I locked it, and for the first time in a long time, the house felt still, not empty.
Accurate.
That afternoon, I changed the locks. Not out of anger, out of procedure. He started reaching out 2 days later. Messages first. Long ones, short ones. Angry ones, regretful ones. The pattern was familiar. Blame, apology, nostalgia, blame again. I read the first few. Then I stopped, and I blocked his number. Within an hour, email started. Same tone, same cycle. I forwarded the first one to my attorney, archived the rest, then blocked that too. No announcements, no explanations, just closed channels. His mother called that evening. I let it go to voicemail. She spoke about forgiveness, about commitment, about how Daniel was confused. I saved the message. Didn't reply. I wasn't in a relationship anymore. I was in an exit process. The next morning, I reviewed our shared account one last time, transferred my portion out, documented the balance, then froze the card. Clean.
Traceable. Final.
Everything after that moved quickly. Once access disappeared, so did the noise. No more messages. No more attempts to reframe reality in real time. Without my money, the structure he built collapsed faster than he expected. I heard later, indirectly, how the rest unfolded. Tyler didn't stay. Of course she didn't. Once the illusion of generosity disappeared, so did the appeal. Daniel tried to shift the story, told people I was cold, controlling, that I cared more about money than the relationship. He wasn't entirely wrong. I do care about patterns, and money is just another form of pattern. His job didn't survive either. Expense reports eventually caught up to him. Charges that didn't align, gifts that couldn't be justified. Accounting had records, and records don't argue. They conclude. The legal process was uneventful. No courtroom drama, no emotional speeches. Just documentation. Dates, transactions, statements. Proof doesn't need volume. It just needs consistency. He tried to argue emotional neglect through his attorney, but there's nothing emotional about a highlighted receipt for a hotel room booked under a lie. The paperwork finalized quietly. Exactly how the relationship ended, not with an explosion. With clarity. A month after he was gone, I noticed something unexpected. The absence of stress. My sleep improved. My appetite normalized. The house felt larger.
Quieter.
Predictable again. I started rebuilding routines. Morning workouts. Cooking instead of ordering. Reviewing finances without surprises. The absence of chaos felt like something I hadn't realized I was missing. I didn't feel victorious. I felt accurate. There's a difference. I reconnected with people he used to call boring. Turns out, boring people are consistent, kind,
Reliable.
One evening, while organizing documents, I found one of the receipts again. The bracelet. I considered throwing it away, then I didn't. Not as a reminder of him, but as proof. Proof of how clearly people reveal themselves when they believe someone else is paying. The house feels like mine again now, not because he's gone, but because I stopped explaining myself to someone who benefited from misunderstanding me. The divorce finalized without complication. No spectacle. No audience. Just signatures. It's been a little over a year. People still ask if I would do anything differently, if I should have confronted him sooner, fought harder, tried to fix it. The answer is no. I acted when the facts were complete. Before that, there was nothing to act on. Suspicion without proof is just noise. And I don't make decisions based on noise. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. I'm not suspicious of everyone. I'm just precise. I trust actions over words, patterns over promises, and receipts over explanations. If there's anything worth taking from this, it's simple. When someone lies quietly and spends loudly, believe the math. I kept the house. He kept the consequences, and life moved forward exactly the way it was supposed to.